Beats here from Pop Alternative, speaking to Corey Kent. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I mean, on tour now with Jason Aldean, back-to-back shows in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of goals for artists growing up, but the main one, besides kind of maybe getting signed, putting out a record, is touring. And has it hit you that
Absolutely.
you're able to just play like in front of crowds like every night? It's pretty crazy. That's the dream.
This is a dream. I mean, it's and I feel like different artists get into music for different reasons. Some are more songwriter heavy, some are love recording, and some love playing live shows. And for me, it was always and will always be live shows. So this is a dream, being on tour with Jason Aldean, getting to watch, like an entertainer of the year, just a complete pro at the whole live entertainment side. It's been a great learning experience. It's been fun.
Is it a cool feeling like the morning of a performance? Like you wake up this morning, you're like, even though the show is in like, 6, 7 hours, I mean, it's like, wow, we're performing in front of a lot of people tonight. Or does it only start to hit you when you get to the venue sound check? Or is it kind of an all day thing for you?
I mean, it is an all day thing, right? Well, I'll tell you the two different scenarios, right? Like recently, we got a tour bus, which has changed everything. But up until the beginning of the Jason Aldean tour, for years we were in a van and trailer driving ourselves, and so it was more compact. The schedule was like crazy, right? Like you get done playing the show, you get in the van at 2 a.m., you drive 6 hours to the next show, you get out, you unload your stuff, you try to catch a couple hours sleep in the back of the van or whatever, and then it's doors open at showtime before you know it. This With the tour bus, it's much more cush, right? Like it's way more comfortable. We have a driver now, so we go to sleep at 1 or 2 in the morning after the show. We wake up in the next city. We didn't have to stay up and drive ourselves. Didn't have to stop at the truck stop, and then we get there at 9 or 10 in the morning, and we have until essentially 5 p.m. before we even sound check. So we have a lot more time on our hands these days. We play a little more golf these days. We get to sleep and exercise a little more. It is an all day thing, and it kind of allows you to mentally prep for what you're about to do that night, as opposed to you kind of got thrown in the fire when you were in the van and trailer and didn't have much time to think about it.
100%. Getting back to kind of what you were saying about the dream and different artists have different kind of goals and ambitions, I find that really interesting because I want to go way back. Because at some point, Corey Kent, as a fan of music, discovered music that he enjoyed. And then at one point, Corey
Right.
Kent discovered he wanted to play music and perform and learn, guitar and sing and be that. And at one point, you start, messing around, playing shows, recording demos and everything. And then it kind of sinks in a little bit where there's this moment of maybe I have something here. Maybe this could be something I will do. How early on was that for Corey Kent specifically? Or was it a little later on that we would think?
Yeah. I mean, first off, great question. The I got into music at a pretty young age, and it sometimes can sound like when I talk about this, it can sound like I was some sort of a child prodigy, and that is the furthest thing from the truth. I mean, I there was nothing that I was just inherently great at as a kid. Like everything I did, I had to work pretty hard to be just decent at, right? Whether that was football or basketball or baseball or whatever. Music was no exception, but I did get opportunities put in front of me pretty young, and one of those opportunities was I got invited to be a part of a band that played like Dust Bowl era country music mixed with jazz. It's called Western Swing Music. And somebody, a Hall of Famer walked up to me and said, I'm putting this band of kids together to play this music, and I want you to be the lead singer, and we're going to pay you. And I was like, what? You can get paid to play music? I had no idea. I was 11 years old. And so for the next 5 years, I played music in this band as the lead singer. And so from 11 to 16, that was my life. Instead of playing competitive basketball on the weekends, I was playing shows on the weekends. And we got to tour all over the country in the States, where we got to play the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. We were opening for the Oak Ridge Boys and Roy Clark and all of these legends. And even after all that, I didn't know that this is what I wanted to do. I just knew that I had a lot of experience. I was given a lot of that experience. And then I had an interest in writing songs, but I hadn't written anything yet.
Yep.
And the night that changed everything was the band was fading away. Everybody was going to college, and I was the youngest person in the band. So I was 16, and I thought I was going to go back to being a normal kid. I knew how hard it was to have any sort of momentum in the music industry after doing it for 4 or 5 years with this band. And it was like, man, that sounds like a lot, like an uphill battle. And then I don't know if I'm willing to reinvest like that, to start over. And this night with Willie Nelson happened, and a super long story, but I ended up on stage with Willie Nelson singing a song called Milk Cow Blues, which was an old Western swing song that I knew from my band days. And that night inspired me to completely relook at everything in my life. And I graduated high school a year early, shortly after, so that I could move to Nashville, because I was convinced the next piece of my journey was learning how to write great songs. And so I picked up everything I had. I moved out to Tennessee at 17, and that was really the moment for me. I knew I was all in, and I just kept reinforcing that, that commitment, where I ended up going to college, but on my graduation cap, where you get to decorate them and throw them up in the air, I wrote, "Never made a resume." And the reason was I wanted to go get an education, but I didn't want to come out of there with a backup plan. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to write songs. I knew I wanted to tour, play live. And a backup plan was going to give me a way out to make it not work. And so that I say that to say, if you're a musician, you're listening to this, you can absolutely get an education without having a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those two things are separate in my mind. The backup plan comes from actively pursuing other things outside of your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And an education's never a hindrance to chasing a dream.
That's interesting. Yeah. And, I want to go back a little bit, because Corey, mindsets kind of interest me. So I want to go back, you're in the studio, you're recording Blacktop, Wild as Her, which is now, a platinum certified hit for you. I mean, I want to know, there's a lot of processes. You write a song, you play it a few times, you actually go and record it and record parts and everything. The song is done. Wild as Her is recorded, it's done, it's mastered, it's ready to go. It's not out to the public yet, though, but it's ready.
Right.
It's ready. What is your mindset specifically with that song specifically? Because we don't know anything.
Man.
Maybe you didn't know that was going to hit like it did. Over
No,
100 million streams. It's incredible, man.
Yeah, man. It's no doubt. I'd be lying to you if I said I knew what was going to happen with that song. We were an independent band from Oklahoma. That song was not supposed to do what it did. But, country music fans had something to do with it, right? Like, they had something to say about it all over the world, man. People embraced this song. But in that moment, before the song was released, I remember we got the master back, we got the mix, and sent it around to our team, and the day that we sent it around to our team, my manager, my everybody in my circle was like, man, this feels like it could be something special. And they felt it even more than I did. Like, I create, and I don't necessarily try to judge or predict what people are going to like.
I don't think you have the time to, too, right? Because it's such a quick process if you think about it.
Also, it's not even that's not my job. That's the fans' job. The fans' job is to tell me what they like. Yes. I'm not trying to predict what they like. I'm doing what I love to do, creating what I get inspired about. And so I knew that I was creatively intrigued by the song, and I gave it my best in the studio, and I thought it came out really cool, and I was proud of it. And then my team started going, hey, this could be something. Yep. And then I remember the same night, later that night, we had a rehearsal. We were in Tennessee for the day, just for one day, because I live in Texas. My band and crew, everybody's born and raised in Oklahoma. And we were just passing through, and we had one rehearsal that night. and I was like, guys, I want to play a new song. Let me play it for you. I put it on the speakers, and they listened to it. We gave it a shot. We ran it through one time. And when we got done playing that song, there are two guys that are in our crew that aren't in the band. So one's our media guy, one's our tour manager.
Yep.
And they were watching this rehearsal, and it stopped them in their tracks, and they literally were like, this is it. Like, this is the sound.
Yep.
And when everybody on my team collectively agreed that there was some magic here, I thought, man, we have a chance at doing something special. But it didn't take off for a couple more, like a month later, the song comes out. And then a month after that is when things started to really move. And I got a phone call, and my manager was like, hey, man, you're having a moment. Your song's going viral. And I was like,
almost
I don't
like
even know what
it was almost that song coming out and just seeing the nonstop reception online, on Spotify, the music video and everything. That literally was like, you go on a roller coaster, and the roller coaster has its kind of ups and downs and twists and turns, but you can't get off it. I feel like that's what it was like, right, for you?
Yeah, man. It was crazy. And what was really hard to believe about this song in particular is that the shelf life of this song has been insane. I mean, we, a year and a half after the song came out, had our biggest streaming day ever on that song. And so what it shows me is people are still discovering it for the first time, and people are still just as excited about it now as they were when it came out, which is really cool. And it doesn't always happen that way.
And you have over 4 million people on a monthly basis, specifically on Spotify. We're not talking about everything else. We're talking about Spotify that listen to Corey Kent. That's something that can never be taken for granted.
Oh, man. I know how hard it is to get people's attention. I remember when we put Wild as Hurt out, we had 200,000 monthly listeners. And it is such an uphill battle in a world where everybody can put out music. Everybody can be famous. You can be famous for being famous. Like you don't even have to really have a skill set anymore. You just have to get people's attention. So everybody's vying for attention, right? And to be able to get almost 5 million people on one app to pay attention to what you're doing every month is insane. I mean, it's a really tough thing. I'm not gonna lie to you. Sometimes I do take it for granted. I lose sight of how difficult it was to get there. How how many sleepless nights, how many financial sacrifices we had to make, me and my wife, and even my kids. We have poured a lot into this, and sometimes you get used to how amazing life is, right? And there are moments though. The people that you surround yourself with are what keep you coming back to those, just those moments of gratitude. And it really is a pretty cool ride that we're on.
Yeah. And last question before we wrap up super quick. I mean, whether someone performs music, whether they're an actor, a writer, a director, a dancer, they're all storytellers. So Corey Kent is a storyteller. What is your favorite thing about being a storyteller, Corey?
Oh, man. That is I've never been asked that question.
That's why I'm here, man. I'm here to make the interview moment.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love the art form. I love being able to, I love reading, I love writing, there's something about using language to communicate as opposed to visuals or even audio, even recordings, even music recordings. There's a layer deeper. You can have something that sounds great, but when you pair it with the right words, it's like it hits your soul. It doesn't just hit your ears, right? It makes you overcome with emotion. Like there's a song on my record called Man of the House that we have seen people in the first 20 seconds of the song, grown men just breaking down into tears. And that's not my favorite part. I don't love seeing grown men cry. Like that's not the moral of the story here. The moral of the story is what I love about that is there's such a deep personal connection that you can get with this art style, especially in country music, that it makes you feel like you're not the only person that has walked that journey. Like you can connect with for me, that song was so personal, and I saw millions of people connect with a story that I wrote about me and my mom. Like
Wow.
that's been the coolest, most unexpected part of my journey. Was I almost wrote that therapeutically,
Hmm.
and to see people go, hey, that was me, that was my life, that was my story, I identify with you. That's been the coolest part about being able to tell some stories.
Absolutely. And your record Blacktop is available wherever people listen to music. It's pretty easy to plug these days, right? Like, where can I listen to it? Everywhere and anywhere.
Everywhere.
And people can
Right.
catch you on tour now with Jason Aldean. Corey, it was so great chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time, and all the
Oh
best on the
man,
tour, man.
thank you, Petey. Appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me.
No problem.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.